Emily believed she had found the kind of love people spend a lifetime searching for. She met Daniel during her first year at university, and their friendship quickly turned into a romance that everyone admired. He was thoughtful, funny, and always made her feel like she was the only person in the world. After several happy years together, they got married and moved into a small but cozy house on the edge of town. They didn't have much money, but they shared big dreams. They often talked about traveling, buying a larger home, and one day raising children together. Emily trusted Daniel completely, believing their love could survive anything. When Emily discovered she was pregnant, she felt as if every dream they had ever shared was finally coming true. She spent hours staring at the tiny ultrasound picture, imagining what their baby would look like. She planned the surprise carefully, wrapping the photo inside a small gift box and placing it on the dinner table. That evening, Daniel smiled as he opened it, but his reaction wasn't what she expected. He hugged her and whispered, "We're going to be parents!" Yet his smile disappeared almost as quickly as it had appeared. His eyes seemed filled with worry instead of excitement. Emily noticed the change, but convinced herself he was simply nervous. Becoming a father was a huge responsibility, and everyone handled big news differently. She reassured herself that once the baby arrived, everything would be fine. Over the following weeks, Daniel became increasingly distant. He stayed late at work almost every evening and often ignored her phone calls. At dinner, he barely spoke, and whenever Emily mentioned baby names or nursery decorations, he quickly changed the subject. Sometimes she caught him staring out the window with a troubled expression, but whenever she asked what was wrong, he simply replied, "I'm just tired." Emily wanted to believe him. Thankfully, her best friend Sophie was always there. They had known each other since they were children, and had shared nearly every important moment of their lives together. Sophie visited several times each week, helping Emily shop for baby clothes, assemble a crib, and paint the nursery walls a soft shade of blue. She even accompanied Emily to doctor's appointments whenever Daniel claimed he was too busy with work. Emily often told herself how lucky she was to have such a loyal friend. One afternoon, while they folded tiny baby clothes, Sophie quietly asked, "Are you sure everything is okay between you and Daniel?" Emily forced a smile. "He's just stressed about work. It'll pass." Sophie nodded without saying another word, though there was something unusual in her expression that Emily couldn't quite understand. As Emily's pregnancy progressed, she found herself spending more evenings alone. Daniel always had another meeting, another deadline, or another excuse. The silence inside their once happy home became almost unbearable. Still, Emily kept hoping things would return to the way they had been. One rainy evening, Daniel came home much earlier than usual. His face looked pale, and he couldn't meet her eyes. "We need to talk," he said quietly. Emily felt her heart race. She gently rested both hands on her growing belly before sitting across from him in the living room. "What is it?" she asked. Daniel remained silent for several long seconds. Finally he spoke. "I can't keep pretending anymore." Emily frowned. "Pretending about what?" He took a deep breath. "I don't love you the way I used to." The words struck her like a sudden storm. She stared at him, unable to believe what she had just heard. "What are you talking about?" "We're having a baby." "I know." "Then why are you saying this?" Daniel looked down at the floor instead of answering. Before Emily could ask another question, the front door slowly opened. Sophie walked inside. Relieved, Emily immediately stood up. "Thank goodness you're here," she whispered through her tears. "Please help me understand what's happening." Instead of walking toward Emily, Sophie stopped beside Daniel. Neither of them spoke. Emily looked back and forth between them as a terrible feeling settled deep inside her chest. Daniel finally broke the silence. "Sophie and we're together." Emily felt as though the world had stopped turning. She waited for someone to laugh and admit it was a cruel misunderstanding. No one did. Her eyes filled with tears as she looked directly at Sophie. "Tell me he's lying." Sophie's voice trembled. "I'm sorry." Emily's knees nearly gave way. "Since when?" Daniel answered softly. "Several months." Emily realized the affair had begun before she even knew she was pregnant. Every anniversary, every family dinner, every smile they had shared suddenly felt like a lie. The people she trusted more than anyone had betrayed her together. That night, Daniel packed a suitcase and walked out of the house with Sophie. Before closing the door, he glanced back one final time, but Emily couldn't even look at him. She sank onto the living room floor, tears streaming down her face as she held her stomach. Her unborn baby kicked gently, almost as if reminding her she was not completely alone. Wiping away her tears, Emily whispered through a broken voice, "I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I promise you one thing. I will never leave you. No matter what happens, you will always have me." In that heartbreaking moment, with the house suddenly silent and her future uncertain, Emily made the promise that would shape the rest of her life. The months after Daniel walked away were the hardest Emily had ever faced. Every corner of the house reminded her of the life they had planned together. The empty chair at the dinner table, the wedding photographs she eventually packed away, and the nursery they had once painted together all carried memories that brought tears to her eyes. There were days when she wanted to give up, but every time she felt overwhelmed, she placed a hand on her growing belly and remembered the promise she had made to her unborn child. A few weeks later, Emily gave birth to a healthy baby boy. The moment she held him in her arms for the first time, all the pain she had carried seemed to fade, if only for a little while. She named him Noah because she believed his arrival marked the beginning of a new chapter. Looking into his tiny eyes, she realized she no longer had the luxury of living in the past. Her son needed a mother who was strong, hopeful, and determined. Life as a single mother was far from easy. Emily worked long hours at a local bookstore while Noah stayed at a nearby daycare. Every dollar she earned went toward rent, food, and giving her son the best life she could afford. There were nights when she skipped dinner, so Noah would always have enough to eat. She learned how to fix broken furniture, manage bills, and solve problems on her own. Although she was exhausted most days, she never let Noah see her tears. To him, she was always smiling, always encouraging, and always there. As Noah grew older, he filled the house with laughter. He loved drawing colorful pictures, chasing butterflies in the garden, and asking endless questions about the world. His bright smile reminded Emily that happiness could still exist after heartbreak. Friends often told her how much Noah looked like Daniel, but she simply smiled politely and changed the subject. She refused to let painful memories steal the joy of watching her son grow. Years passed, and Emily slowly rebuilt her confidence. She enrolled in evening business classes and eventually opened a small flower shop in town. Her kindness and hard work quickly earned her loyal customers. The shop became more than a business. It became proof that she could create a beautiful life without depending on anyone else. Every bouquet she arranged seemed to represent hope growing from broken dreams. Meanwhile, Daniel's life had taken a very different path. At first, he believed leaving Emily had been the right decision. He and Sophie moved into a modern apartment and tried to build a future together. But the excitement they once felt didn't last. The relationship that had begun with secrets slowly became filled with arguments and distrust. They blamed each other for every disappointment, and the happiness they expected never arrived. After several years of constant conflict, they separated. For the first time, Daniel found himself completely alone. The silence in his apartment was far louder than he had imagined. Without Emily's warmth or Noah's laughter, things he had never given himself the chance to know, his success at work felt meaningless. He often wondered what his life might have looked like if he had stayed. Regret became a constant companion, following him everywhere he went. One sunny Saturday afternoon, Daniel decided to take a walk through the city park, hoping the fresh air would clear his mind. Families were enjoying picnics, children laughed as they ran across the grass, and birds sang from the trees. It was an ordinary day until his eyes landed on a familiar face in the distance. A woman sat on a bench beneath a large oak tree, smiling as she watched a young boy play soccer with a group of children. Daniel stopped walking. His heart began to pound. It was Emily. She looked different from the woman he had left years earlier. The sadness that once filled her eyes had been replaced by quiet confidence. She looked peaceful, happy, and stronger than he had ever seen her. Then Daniel looked at the little boy. The child had dark hair, bright eyes, and a smile that felt strangely familiar. As the boy laughed and ran toward Emily, Daniel noticed something that took his breath away. The child looked remarkably like him. Emily opened her arms, and the boy rushed over, wrapping her in a warm hug. She kissed the top of his head before brushing the grass from his shirt. Watching them together, Daniel suddenly understood everything he had lost. He hadn't just abandoned a marriage. He had missed birthdays, first words, first steps, bedtime stories, school events, and countless moments that could never be repeated. His eyes filled with regret. For several minutes, he remained frozen where he stood, unable to move. Every excuse he had ever made for leaving disappeared. All that remained was the painful truth that one selfish decision had changed 3 lives forever. Taking a deep breath, Daniel slowly started walking toward the bench. His hands trembled, and his heart raced with fear. He didn't know whether Emily would speak to him or walk away. He didn't know if the little boy even knew who he was. But after years of running from his mistakes, Daniel knew he could no longer hide from the past. As he drew closer, Emily looked up. The moment their eyes met, time seemed to stand still. Emily recognized Daniel immediately. For a brief moment, memories she had buried years ago came rushing back. The night he walked away, the endless tears, the lonely hospital room where she gave birth without him, and the countless struggles she had faced raising Noah alone. But those memories no longer had the power to break her. She had survived them, and they had made her stronger. Daniel stopped a few feet away, unable to find the right words. The confident man Emily had once known was gone. Standing before her was someone weighed down by regret. "Emily," he said softly, "it's been a long time." Emily nodded politely. "It has." There was an awkward silence between them. Noah looked from his mother to the stranger with curious eyes. "Mom," he asked, "do you know him?" Emily smiled gently at her son. "Yes," she replied. "I do." Daniel swallowed hard. He had imagined this moment many times, but nothing had prepared him for the reality of standing in front of the child he had never known. I'm sorry," he whispered. "I've wanted to say those words for years." Emily looked at him calmly. "Sorry for what?" Daniel lowered his head. "For leaving you. For leaving our child. For choosing someone else." "I thought I was chasing happiness, but I destroyed everything that truly mattered." Emily listened without interrupting. "I've regretted it every single day," Daniel continued. "If I could go back, I would change everything." Emily sighed quietly. "The past can't be changed, Daniel." He nodded, tears filling his eyes. "I know. But I had to tell you how deeply sorry I am." Noah stepped closer to his mother and held her hand. "Mom," he whispered, "who is he?" Emily looked down at her son before meeting Daniel's eyes again. She had promised herself that if this day ever came, she would tell Noah the truth without anger or bitterness. She knelt beside Noah. "This is Daniel," she said gently. "He's your father." Noah looked surprised. He studied Daniel's face carefully before looking back at Emily. "My father?" Emily nodded. "Yes." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "I've dreamed about meeting you," he said to Noah. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'm so sorry I wasn't there." Noah remained quiet. At only 8 years old, he didn't fully understand the complicated emotions surrounding the moment. After a long silence, he asked an innocent question. "If you're my dad, where have you been all these years?" Daniel's heart shattered. There was no excuse he could give that would make sense to a child. "I made a terrible mistake," he answered honestly. "One that I can never erase." Noah looked at his mother. "You never left me." Emily smiled warmly. "And I never will." Daniel realized then that while he had been searching for success and excitement, Emily had quietly built the family he had abandoned. Noah loved and trusted his mother completely because she had earned that trust every single day. Daniel turned back to Emily. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he said, "but if there's any chance, I'd like to get to know Noah, even if it takes years." Emily thought carefully before answering. "I won't make promises for him," she said. "That decision belongs to Noah as he grows older. But if you truly want to be part of his life, you have to understand something." Daniel listened closely. "Being a father isn't about sharing the same last name or blood. It's about showing up. It's about keeping your word, being there when life gets difficult, and putting your child before yourself." Daniel nodded. "I understand." "No," Emily replied gently. "You're only beginning to." The three of them stood together for a few quiet moments. The afternoon breeze carried the laughter of children across the park. Life around them continued, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Finally, Noah smiled politely at Daniel. "It was nice meeting you." Daniel smiled through his tears. "It was the best moment I've had in years." Emily took Noah's hand. "We should get going." Before walking away, she looked back one last time. "I don't hate you anymore, Daniel," she said calmly. "Hate is too heavy to carry forever. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. Some choices change lives forever." Daniel nodded silently, accepting every word. Emily and Noah walked hand in hand toward the park's exit. They laughed together as Noah pointed excitedly at a group of ducks swimming across the pond. Watching them disappear into the distance, Daniel realized that he had not lost them in that moment. He had lost them years ago when he chose to walk away. Standing alone beneath the old oak tree, he understood that love is not measured by promises spoken in happy times. It is measured by loyalty when life becomes difficult, by sacrifices made without expecting anything in return, and by the courage to stay when leaving seems easier. As Emily and Noah disappeared from view, Daniel whispered a quiet goodbye, carrying with him a lesson that had taken years of regret to learn. A broken heart can heal, a new life can be built, but some moments, once lost, can never be brought back.